Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Stacy Satang with the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining us in partnership with the South Central Assembly for a webinar titled Emergency Housing Needs Part 3. To let you know, this presentation is being recorded and will run between 60 and 90 minutes, including question and answer time. Please note that any information communicated in the chat feature does automatically get saved. We will be sending you a link to this recording as well as accompanying materials within the next few days, as well as uploading it to our YouTube channel, posting on our website, and I know that the South Central Assembly will be doing the same. Attendees, you'll be muted during today's presentation. If you have questions for the presenters, please type them in the Q&A box below. If you have a logistical question or need to get in touch with me for any reason, please use the chat feature to do that. Do not use the chat for questions for the presenters. Please put those in the Q&A. I will now turn it over to George Klaus to begin today's presentation.
Thank you, Stacy. Great to be doing this in partnership with the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania. The South Central Assembly really appreciates the HAP's help in publishing our Pandemic Response Series Zoom webinars. My job is to offer greetings from the South Central Assembly Board and introduce today's Pandemic Response session and of course, our Emergency Rental Assistance Program update session today. I'm George Klaus, a longtime member of the South Central Assembly's Board and the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania. The South Central Assembly is a nonprofit agency. We have offered education, training, and annual summits on housing and community development issues in South Central Pennsylvania since our founding in 1996. I am co-chair of the Assembly's Housing and Community Development Committee, along with Justin Eby of the Lancaster Housing and Redevelopment Authority, who presumably is in the audience somewhere. The counties that we serve directly are Adams, Cumberland, Dauphin, Perry, Lancaster, Lebanon, Franklin, and York. In 2020, our board decided we needed to go another way, so we went from offering summits to Zoom webinars with the onset of the pandemic. We created a pandemic response series and a sub-series of emergency housing needs sessions. We've offered 6 of them so far, and we've got a bunch more to come. The sessions we've offered so far are eviction prevention initiatives, new emergency solutions grant opportunities, downtown and small business recovery, navigating the CARES Act rental relief program, strategies for preserving community economies, the state of the region's rental housing market, and today's session, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program update. I'd like to thank Ed Geiger, Ali Schott, and Justin Eby, and the rest of the Assembly's Housing and Community Development Committee for their hard work in making our pandemic response series a success. Special thanks go to our sponsors for the pandemic response series, the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania, the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, the Federal Home Loan Bank, Community First Fund, and Monarch Development for their financial support and more importantly at times their logistical help. Without Ali Schott's great assistance, we would not have been able to do our 6 Zooms beforehand. With the support of our sponsors, we're planning on offering 2 new sessions a month through the rest of the year on a variety of housing, economic development, and other topics to meet pressing pandemic-created needs. And if you'll indulge me for a second, we're going to be doing sessions on transportation and infrastructure, land use planning and zoning, alternative community engagement and public meetings, challenges of volunteer fire protection, small business recovery, restarting tourism, addressing the fiscal impacts of COVID on local government, and connecting colleges to communities in the pandemic. Our next session on March 25th will be Child Care in the Pandemic, a Get Back to Work session. If you're interested in learning more about the South Central Assembly or checking out our past pandemic series session recordings, go to our website, southcentralassembly.org. We will send a very short SurveyMonkey evaluation out after the session to attendees from South Central Assembly counties. Your responses help us decide what we should have in our next sessions and who should be in our panels. So please give us your thoughts. Good luck with your own pandemic response, and thank you very much for joining us today. And again, thanks to the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania. And now I'm going to turn it over to our very able monitor, Ed Geiger.
Thanks, George. I'm Ed Geiger, Principal of Ed Strategic Consulting, and facilitating this session today. The South Central Assembly's Pandemic Response Series has provided opportunities to engage in some of the best thinking on how to address critical issues we're all facing during the COVID-19 crisis. Those issues include a wide variety of topics, and George just reviewed those for you. Today's session is the third in a set of related sessions to address emergency housing needs, with the focus being the new Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Our speakers will offer comments that will likely generate questions as well as ideas and conversation about how to implement the new program at both the state and local levels. We expect to have time for those questions and sharing of ideas after the presentations are over. We want an informative discussion that benefits the entire South Central region as well as the state, which is why we partnered with the Housing Alliance to expand our audience for this session today. I encourage you, as Stacy already provided, to enter your questions throughout the presentations in the Q&A box. Again, please use the Q&A box for your questions. We will hold all of those questions until we get through the three presentations. Ali Schott from the Federal Reserve Bank in Philadelphia will be assisting me in sharing the questions with the panel. Our panelists, in the order they will speak, are Mary Kuna, Executive Director of the Cumberland County Housing and Redevelopment Authorities, followed by Shelley Peterson, Housing Director for the Community Progress Council in York, and then finally, but certainly not least, Adam Riggs, Director of the Division of Family Assistance in the Bureau of Policy for the Department of Human Services. So let's go ahead and kick it off with Mary.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I am Mary Kuna, the Executive Director with the Cumberland County Housing and Redevelopment Authorities. Basically, our agency is administering the Emergency Rental Assistance Program on behalf of Cumberland County. So a little bit about Cumberland County. We are considered one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing county by population in the state of Pennsylvania. Our population is over 250,000 people. Our home prices are increasing fairly dramatically since January of 2020 to January of 2021. The median sale price had increased by 15%. So we have a big housing need here in Cumberland County, and emergency rental assistance is a key component of that. So for Cumberland County, being over 250,000 people, we had funds directly allocated to us from the U.S. Treasury for emergency rental assistance. That was about $7.5 million. In addition, the county commissioners decided they were going to accept the county's federal allocation through the state for emergency rental assistance, and that is coming to about $9.1 million. Same exact, while different, one's running through the state, one's coming directly from the federal government. On the front end, it is the same exact program for our residents. A little bit about my agency. So we are both housing and redevelopment. We administer the Housing Choice Voucher Program, Homeless and Special Needs Voucher Program, administer CDBG and home funds for Cumberland County. We manage the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the Blighted Property Reinvestment Board, FAIR Funds, Act 152 demo funds. Our property managers manage 14 low-income housing tax credit projects. We have 2 federal senior housing properties. We have about 179 units of public family housing. So we are a fairly large agency, not as large as some other housing and redevelopment authorities, but we are fairly large, which is why the county commissioners decided our agency would be best to administer the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. So We administered the previous CARES program that had come through the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Authority. When we did that, we learned a lot of different things. So we feel very confident that we could manage this program. So some of the things we did look at was how to streamline this process. We talked to a number of different stakeholders, a number of landlord associations, and just to understand better what we can do, what they needed. There's a lot of flexibility within this particular program just based on the statute itself. There's a lot of clarification that's needed as well, but in general, what we can provide is assistance for rent arrears, utility arrears, rental assistance, and utility assistance. So we did decide the best way was to streamline everything. And so we're not requiring a great deal from individuals. The law allows us to actually do a lot of self-certifications, which has been incredibly beneficial, particularly with individuals who have been unemployed for a significant period of time, may have not been in their office and their employer cannot provide them any sort of documentation about their work or their previous work. So there is a lot of flexibility. We are asking people for a lease, and we are providing a template for a ledger if they don't have one, but we do want a lease of some sort in our books. Some things we've changed thanks to some input from different landlords and real estate groups is we are asking if a property is represented by a property management agency, they provide a copy of their broker license. There has been some issues of fraud in the region, particularly now with the demand for housing. So we do want a copy of a broker license if it's a managed property. We are asking people just for a copy of their ID, some sort of photo ID to make sure you are who you say you are, and some version of income documentation, which again can be anything. We have a lot of different self-certifications, but our goal is to make this process very simple. So the application is one. It is one downloadable application, printable application. You can pick up a paper copy. We'll eventually have an online platform by April, and it's landlord and tenant. It's one form, so they can both fill it out. Again, the goal is to make it efficient, effective, and aim for timeliness. They have changed a few different program end dates that they're kicking around currently at the federal level. In either case, we are pretty confident that we'll just change our process as we need to, but we can get this money out as quickly as possible into the hands of residents. So some things what we had addressed, the application was fairly complicated in the last round from PHFA. That was the feedback we received, and there were some issues for us with access to that. So how we've decided to adjust is, again, keeping it simple. A single application. There are templates. If you do not have a rent roll, we can provide that. We're offering download, print, online. Our goal is more participation. We are having an individual go to work with different nonprofits throughout the county. So from Shippensburg all the way to Camp Hill, there will be different agencies that have paper applications, have a staff member for a few hours during the week that can sit and help someone prepare the application. Those nonprofit partners have been incredible, and hopefully we'll adjust where need is. And then some other things has been the documentation. There was a significant issue with documentation, collecting that, people being able to get it. So again, self-certification has been absolutely a great thing on our end. We're providing a lot of options for those individuals who've been in long-term unemployment and who are self-employed and who might be what's considered underemployed. So there were also some issues with the restrictions and caps on the last program. So our county has decided that there are going to be no caps or restrictions except that are provided in the law, meaning if you are an individual who is renting, I think previously it was $750 a month is what the landlord could receive. We are going with whatever is in the lease. We will work with that landlord on. So that is our hope, again, to just make this incredibly streamlined and helpful for landlords as well. We want to make them whole. We want to keep people housed and have that housing stability. So our program started on Monday. We had to push it back a week just with some changes and more information coming from the state regarding their portion of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program funds. But we have officially launched on Monday. Again, the application now is downloadable from our website, which is www.cchra.com. So we have it there and it's available to download. We have paper copies here. We have paper copies at a number of remote locations. We are offering to mail them to individuals. And then as of April 1st, we will also be having an online platform so people can apply that way. So it offers a number of different options. We have an email address that's dedicated so individuals can just email bits and pieces of their documentation as they get it together. And internally, we've just put together a really specific process of how things move through. And that is our goal, is just to make this as efficient and effective as possible. So that is what is happening in Cumberland County. And again, we're going to adjust as the regulation, as guidance comes out, we'll adjust. But our hope is to just make sure our landlords are whole and we have enough housing stability here in Cumberland County as we can at the moment. So thank you, Ed.
Thanks, Mary. We'll turn it over to Shelley at this point, and I'll remind everybody, if you have a question, we're holding them till the end, but feel free to type those into the Q&A box while Shelley's talking. Go ahead, Shelley.
Good morning, everybody. Should I talk? I have found in the last few meetings that I talk for about 1.5 minutes and somebody says, "You're muted, Shelley." I think I unmuted myself this time, hoping everybody can hear. I do have a PowerPoint too. I want to start here. Hold on just a second. Let me get it going here.
We are hearing.
Good. Excellent. Thanks for the feedback. So here's the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, York County style. And each county is allowing for some flexibility in how they approach the monies that's coming through. And York has chosen Community Progress Council as a community action agency to provide that funding, or the funding that's available. Community Progress Council, as I said, is a community action agency, and our mission is to empower individuals and families to move towards self-sufficiency and to advocate for change to promote community growth. The York County allocations with respect to the emergency ERAP program, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, we got a direct allocation from the Treasury Department of $13 million. We're looking at an indirect allocation from the feds to the state through the Department of Human Services, and that in the amount of $17 million. And so the $30 million that we're looking at to put out in rental assistance is only 30 times what we put out in the rapid or rent relief program that we completed earlier and toward the end of last year. So we're looking at assisting a whole lot of folks this time around. Again, making landlords whole, as Mary said. The purpose of the funds is to assist with rent arrearages, utility, and energy costs. In York County, in order to be eligible, you have to be a York County resident. You have to be under 80% of the area median income for household. And I put the numbers in here too. Again, we're going to target folks under 50%, but everybody has to be under 80% in order to be eligible for this funding. They need to be economically impacted by COVID-19. This is different from the RRP program too, because there you had to demonstrate that you lost at least 30% of your income. And economically impacted in this case could be the fixed income person who had to isolate because of an exposure to COVID and was unable to go out, had to have groceries delivered. Obviously, that's an increased expense. It covers the folks too that had childcare issues and had to provide differently for their children. And so therefore their income, there was some income loss there. Could be medical bills that came up. So economically impacted is actually the terminology we're using, so that there has to be a demonstration of that economic impact. We are doing that by self-certification, but I'll get to that in a minute. Also at risk of homelessness if not assisted, and that could be behind in utilities, behind in rent. Don't have to be behind in either, could be just not able to look at paying future rent. So at risk of homelessness if not assisted, we're looking to demonstrate that as a guideline too, or as an eligibility. As far as how the program is going to be run, we're looking at providing 12 months of rental assistance going back or forward. Arrearages will be paid in one lump sum directly to the landlord. Forward rent can be paid in a 3-month payment with income updates required. So if they're behind 6 months or 6 months of last year, they need assistance, we can pay those 6 months to the landlord once we've determined their eligibility. And then going forward, we could pay the rest of the 12 months in two different payments, 3 months at a time. So you can get a lump sum payment going forward of only 3 months, and it will require income updates. So if they've exceeded in that 3 months the 80%, then they would not be eligible for an additional 3. We can also go back an entire 12 months. We could go forward with 12 months of assistance, but only in 3-month segments. The cap on our assistance, and we have set a cap, and that is going to be the fair market rent for each month. So now fair market, you can find on huduser.gov what the fair market rent is for your county if you're not familiar with that. Just as an example, the fair market rent in York County on a 3-bedroom is $1,225. So unlike RRP, which was limited to $750 on a $1,225 a month apartment, and there were clearly a number of landlords who did not want to participate because they had to waive the rest of it. This time we'll go up to the fair market rent. Now, if an apartment is only $1,000, we're only going to assist with $1,000. But if it goes up to, or it is at the fair market, we can help up to that amount, whatever it is for 1, 2, 3, 4-bedroom, whatever. Past due rent is covered first, so we'll pay that out first. Utility payments will be paid for arrearages only. We're not going to pay utility payments forward. At this point, what we're hoping to do instead is to resolve arrearages in for any of the utilities, electric, gas, water, sewer, and trash. Fuel oil, we're going to cover under another funding source. But if we can get that arrearage cleared up with that utility company, then work with, through case management, helping those families get on assistance programs going forward. So we are only going to assist with arrearages on utilities at this point. Self-certifications are going to be used for 3 different things. Economic impact, which, as I said, can be more than just the income loss. You know, I was thinking about, as I've working from home, absolutely my heating and cooling bills have absolutely changed because, of course, I have a programmable thermostat, and during the winter months or summer months when I've been away at work and in an office, I could have the temperature adjusted so that I'm not using a whole lot of energy then. Well, right now, with being at home, I got to have it a little warmer, a little cooler coming up in the summer, whatever. So there has been an economic impact. Even when I think back, actually I contracted COVID in September and fortunately recovered, but there was a period of about 3 weeks when it was pretty difficult for me. I couldn't go out, couldn't get my groceries, had to have them delivered, had to rely on a good number of contactless delivery services in order to get my needs met, and that created an economic impact. Now I own my house, and homeowners are not eligible for this program. So despite my economic impact, I'm not eligible. But for the folks that are renters and have had similar kinds of economic impact, they, by self-certification, can tell us what that impact was, any of the number of kind of examples I've given. They can self-certify to their income too, but they also, and the third one's important to us, is they have to make an attestation of information accuracy. We are reserving the right to, at any point in time, if we deem it necessary, to require that they provide the documents that would demonstrate and prove what they have self-asserted to. So they can make a self-certification of income, but they need to have the backup documentation so that if they were asked, that they can show that and demonstrate that that was their particular income. And we're doing all that by self-certifications. We've determined that SurveyMonkey can actually do applications. I didn't know that. I thought they only did surveys, but it's a misnomer. SurveyMonkey actually can take an application, and we are setting that up. And it will, it creates a login through the portal. It has a save and exit feature, which is absolutely awesome. There are lots of different sections. There's the eligibility section, a household section, a landlord section, but it's cool that it allows for that save and exit feature too, so that if they need to get documents in order to upload them, they don't have to have it all ready in advance. They can come back into it and adjust as needed. The landlord acts as a recommender. That's the role that SurveyMonkey assigns to them. We can also, and so they have to agree to the program, agree to accept our payments, and then we'll ask them for a W-9 and an ACH form. The program also allows for a collaborator. So a caseworker, support person, somebody working with the family can also be added. And that collaborator can receive, obviously with permission, can receive updates and has the ability to view what the status updates are on that application. Is it still in process? Has it gone to payment? Has the payment already been made? Document uploads can be made from a phone, which is really nice. They can take a picture of their lease with their smartphone. They can use a tablet, a computer. The program allows for all of that. The documents that we are going to collect from the tenant are the self-certifications, as I mentioned, the lease, the photo ID, proof of residency. And proof of residency is optional if the photo ID has their address that they're renting, the lease has the same address that they're renting from. So proof of residency is only optional if those other things don't establish that already. And then we're looking at most recent utility bills as documents from the tenant. Documents we're going to collect from the landlord are the landlord certification, a rental delinquency verification, again with a template if they don't have a ledger as already, and many landlords do, but if they don't, to establish that through a template we can provide, or something that verifies that there is a delinquency or what the rent is. And then the W-9, which is the IRS form that's required, indicating that they are receiving and will generate at some point the 1099, indicating that they receive income from that property. And then an ACH form, because we're choosing to do all of our payments by direct deposit into their accounts. And so they will fill out an ACH form too. And all of that is handled with the landlord. Our online application will be available on our website, and that's www.yorkcpc.org, and will be open for submittal within the next 2 weeks. We're working out our back-end processing at this point on the SurveyMonkey. The application has been designed already, but we want to make sure our back-end process is clear as we go forward with our processing. We will have instructional videos in English and in Spanish that'll be offered and recorded on Facebook Live, and then there'll be links to those on our website. We have a community partners meeting that's coming up on Monday of next week to encourage and support tenants, because, you know, some folks aren't as technologically savvy and will need help with a computer, and we're only taking the online applications, so they may need that help, whether it's opening doors to allow them to use computers or guiding them even over the phone with how to go through the process. So with our community partners, we're actually going to show them the application, help them work through it, help them see how they could partner with us, even be a collaborator if they want, so that if the participant or the applicant wants to check in and says, hey, I haven't heard about my application, do you have any information? That collaborator with the participants and applicants' permission will have the ability to see what the status is and help with that communication. That became very difficult for us. The first time around, we had so many applications through RRP, and it was very difficult to regularly communicate. This time, SurveyMonkey will allow us to communicate through emails at various different stages, or as the status advances, it will send out emails to both landlords and to participants or applicants, and then if with their permission, also to potentially a collaborator, so that everybody can keep informed as to how the process is going. We got a lot of money to put out, and it's going to be a major project for us, and we're anticipating that SurveyMonkey and this technology is going to make it go a whole lot more smoothly than it did the first time, and we're excited about that. Let's see, that's York County style ERAP.
Thanks, Shelley. At this point, we're going to turn the podium over here to Adam Riggs and ask if he could present how the Department of Human Services will be utilizing these new funds.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for having me today. My name is Adam Riggs. I'm with the Department of Human Services in the Office of Income Maintenance, Bureau of Policy. I'm the Division Director for the Division of Family Assistance. My division does oversee the Homeless Assistance Program, among other cash benefit programs within OIM. So I want to say thank you to both Mary and Shelley for all the information they're providing this morning and all the work and energy they put into their programs. It has been a great deal of work that's to be done in the period. So again, just recognition of your efforts.
Adam, you're cutting in and out. Can you check your mic?
How's that?
Yes, that's good.
Okay, I'll try to lean into it a little bit more.
That's better.
I would like to take the opportunity to, I'm sorry. I'd like to take that to show you, to discuss what DHS's approach is to the ERAP program and what some of the things and activities that we've been doing to support the counties. We have opted to run the DHS ERAP program through our local county offices, whether that be their HAP agency or another designated agency. We're aware that they are most familiar with their local communities. They have procedures in place already to deal with rental assistance. We figured they were the best entity to move this program forward. Some of the ERAP background information is pretty much the same as what Mary and Shelley has shared with everyone. So we're all operating under the Federal Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. It did provide direct local funds to municipalities with a population over 200,000, and it also provided funds directly to the state for the implementation of the program. On February 5th, Governor Wolf signed the PA Act of 2021, granting DHS the authority and responsibility for implementing and oversight with the funds provided directly to the state. So DHS has allocated $564,109,500 $583 across all 67 counties, and that's based on the percentage of state population from the 2019 census data. PA Act 1 does have a formula that we used to determine each county's allocations. We granted allocations even to counties that got direct federal funding, so there was no separation of counties in that regard. Again, just going to reiterate the highlights of the ERAP program is to assist with rent, rental arrears, utilities, energy costs, to include arrears, and housing stability services. We're all under the same ERAP income guidelines as proposed by the federal law, which is within at or under the 80% of the area median income. We are prioritizing renters under 50% AMI, but again, like as mentioned earlier, we can go all the way up to 80% of the AMI. We are, renters or landlords can apply. Community partners can apply on our Compass portion, can assist applicants with their application. The assistance we're providing does cover up to 12 months plus an additional 3 months for, if necessary, for housing stability and if funds are available. We are also subject to the federal reporting requirements. So on our application, we're gathering data and asking counties to make sure that as they authorize the program, that they capture this information, demonstrating the average expenditures per income bracket. So that's the average expenditures under income bracket under 30% AMI, between 30 to 50% AMI, and 50 to 80% AMI. We're also looking to gather the information of the population served by gender, race, and ethnicity. So we're all required to report that under the federal guidelines. This slide here demonstrates some of the key dates and activities that DHS has outlined. So February, we had PA Act 1 signed, as mentioned. We sent out requests to the counties for county participation plans. And because we have such a variety of size in the counties that are participating, some counties, the larger counties are stood up, they're ready to go. They are running or about to run their direct program, but some of the smaller counties have challenges just based on their size. They don't necessarily have the resource and tools that the larger counties have. So we wanted to keep those in mind. We did allocate all our funding on March 5th to 2021. So every county received their allocation. Our DHS Program Procedures Instructions Manual is the guide that we normally provide the counties so that they have procedures and processes to follow for implementing the program. We have that written up. It's in the very final stages of review right now. It'll outline basically the program eligibility requirements when it comes to eligible household, who can apply, income limits, and verification documentation, and what have you. And I'll get into that a little bit more coming up. So we are expecting and planning and finalizing some public announcements that will be coming out in the next, in a very short period of time. DHS is still committed to having the program stood up by mid-March, with the understanding that some counties, again, are ready to roll and they have things in place, whereas other counties are still a little bit, they're having a little bit more trouble getting everything set in place. So their start date might be, a little bit later than ours. In July, we'll be collecting we'll be collecting the reports from all the counties to see where they are fiscally. If they have unobligated funds projected for the rest of the year, we may be reallocating those funds across the different counties. So we are subject to some additional requirements because of the state act, the PA Act 1. So we are required to submit a report every month to the Senate committee chair and the House committee chair on the fiscal status of the program. So we will be getting fiscal reports on a monthly basis from our county participants. So we wanted to be very instrumental and put forward a collaborative effort in standing up the ERAP program. We have I'm sorry. So we have reached out to counties. We've done some demonstrations. We've gotten feedback from them. We've also worked with our LIHEAP Advisory Committee, getting information on the public utilities agencies, and we're sharing that information with counties, and we're encouraging that the counties set up a direct contact within their local county so that they can do the utilities portion and get confirmations or verifications directly from the utilities company rather than necessarily being dependent on the applicant providing information. The idea with leveraging Compass is that, as Mary and Shelley mentioned, they're going to be having or do have online Compass or online application processes for their counties. Some of the smaller counties don't have that flexibility, and DHS wanted to make sure that we could bring some of those smaller counties up to a level playing field, and we wanted to provide the ability for them to receive online applications. So we developed a process in Compass where an individual can go in and submit an online application. We asked each county to identify whether they wanted to participate in receiving those online applications, or if they did not, they could opt out and just use their existing process that they have in place. All the counties were very responsive. We greatly appreciate that. The point of Compass was that a resident of Pennsylvania could go to one location and get the information they need on being able to apply for the program, whether that be through Compass or whether it be redirecting them to the county office where they can get the information, or the county office where they can do the online application for that county. Again, I mentioned the instructions and requirements document. We'll be providing that to our counties hopefully soon. And we also wanted to provide accessible tools for all the counties. So we did develop applications, and we are sending out applications in 5 different languages to all the counties today. Now, our application can be used. It doesn't have to be used by the county. We did not put our DHS logo on the application so that it doesn't, hopefully it doesn't stand apart from the other county applications that the county may be using. And we encourage all counties, whether they're running a direct program or not, to, if a client submits one of these applications or paper applications, that you would recognize it as a valid application, and you would continue to process your assistance with that application. Some other tools that we're providing to counties are, if you are taking the Compass online application, there's a dashboard within Compass that you can sign up for, and you can go in and you can see all your applications submitted. You can print them out. You can, once you adjudicate them or determine eligibility, you can update the status of those applications to approved or denied. And we can plan on building the Compass piece out even further. That will provide reporting capabilities for the counties to submit their monthly reports back to us. So that's our phase 2 of the Compass design. We are trying to provide counties with, not only the applications, but, income charts, the INR document, a list of the public utility contacts, a lot of tools that some of the counties have responded back to us, said, can we get this? Can we have that? And we're trying to do our best to accommodate all those requests and make tools available. We even provided, we have a landlord certification form they can use. We have a tenant certification form that they can use. But again, some counties have their own forms developed, other counties do not. So, if we're going to develop the tool at DHS state level, then the tool is available to any county regardless of how they're running their program. DHS has some communications that we're finalizing as far as like our formal announcement, and then future press releases reminding people about the availability of the program. We have the DHS ERAP website page. This is a link to that page. So when you get the PowerPoint, you should be able to click the link and get to the page. It's currently being designed. It does have some information on it now, but it will be fully loaded with information on how residents can apply for their program. It'll have the complete list of all the county contacts, where they can go for their county to submit their application. It'll also have the income level chart. It'll have downloadable paper applications. So it'll be a variety of information there. We also had, like I said, built the DHS Compass online application. Now, we did put that out live over the weekend. That was our design session go date. So to date, we have received about 414 applications through the Compass online, and the individual counties are getting those. Center County is taking the lead. They've got 104 applications. So even if their program's not open, they're at least able to submit an application, and once that county stands up their program and opens their program, they'll have those applications. Some counties are already ready to go, and we've told them that, if you're ready to go and you have things in place, to go ahead and, start your program, take your applications, process them through. Other counties that are still catching up, hold on to your applications, and as soon as you're ready to go, don't forget to go back and, you need to go back and adjudicate these applications that have been pending. We have a public FAQs. We're working on that again this morning, so that'll also be on the DHS website. There's currently one on the Compass webpage, and it will be updated as well with the, so it matches or aligns with the one that's going to be on the DHS website. Again, DHS is preparing additional communications as we prepare to formally launch the program, and we're adhering to by mid-March. So we're still on track for that. So this is an example of our Compass page where you could go in and you click on the helpful links, and in the FAQs down below, you'll see there's a link for the ERAP FAQ. And that'll open up and answer the public FAQs. Some of the DHS application support, again, was to provide the public a primary location for access and information on the ERAP program. So we steer everybody towards Compass. When they go into Compass, and I'll demonstrate some of the features here shortly, they'll be able to be directly guided to the area where they can submit their application for their county, or they'll be directly guided to submit their application online. So it does have the county ERAP information, it has the FAQs, links to paper applications. So there will be a link from Compass that will take you to the DHS website page where you can download the paper applications. With the online application, they can complete and submit the application online. Again, counties can go in as a ERAP user and access those applications online, download them. They can process and determine eligibility, and then go back in and update the status of the application to approved or denied. There's some feature enhancements going on in that area as well. Some of the feature enhancements are, as we want to be able to give counties or applicants the opportunity to download their verifications and their documents, so that it comes through as one application with verification to the counties. And again, we're also looking at building a reporting tool within the Compass so that counties can report back to us. The Compass ERAP application. So when you go to the Compass page, at the bottom of the page, along with some of these other programs that we have listed, we've added the ERAP program, and you would just click on the Get Started. Once you get clicked on Started, it'll ask you to select the county that you're applying, that the resident property is within. So once you select the county, it'll give you direction onto how you submit your application. So if you are participating in Compass Online, you will be given the opportunity to proceed with completing the application online. And if your county is not receiving the online ERAP applications, we present the information that the county provided us in regards to where you can go to complete your application. Upon completion of the online application, our applicants will see a pop-up that says this is the information that may be requested from you for the county. So it's going to talk about whether it's going to be your rental obligations, your utility obligations, income information, identity verifications, or what have you. And it's also going to provide them with the county point of contact information as to where they're supposed to submit those documentations. So, and again, that information is the information the county's provided us that they wanted displayed, and that's what you see there. Now, throughout this process, counties, as they're developing their plans, they've been submitting updates from what they originally submitted us, and we try to accommodate the updates as quickly as we can, but it's not an overnight process to change information that's in Compass. But as counties develop things and information changes, we understand that there are going to be changes. We want to accommodate that, and we will do so as quickly as possible. And again, the future enhancement is to allow applicants to be able to upload verification documents, and that's a future enhancement, and it's a top priority future enhancement. Some of the reporting support I talked about is that with DHS, we are subject to federal reports, but we also have some state reporting requirements, which unfortunately requires a monthly fiscal report back to the Senate and House. Generally, we do quarterly fiscal reports, so this program is a little bit unique in that. We want to provide each county access to the report tools through our standalone Compass user reporting tool. We're going to leverage existing reports that we use with our homeless assistance program so that counties are already familiar with the layout and the format. They'll be modified somewhat just to cover the ERAP requirements, but we want to try and keep it something that counties are already familiar to. We don't want to put the counties with a learning curve and have to train them how to do a new type of report. We'll be gathering the disaggregated data again, and I mentioned this up front, but your expenditures per income bracket, and then the population served by gender, race, and ethnicity. Again, fiscal support, we did allocate the $564 million across the 67 counties. DHS will be monitoring it for any unobligated funding and the needs of counties that have unmet needs. So we will oversee any reallocations, and then towards the end of the program, we will conduct any recruitment of unobligated funds. We are keeping an eye on HR 1. We understand that there will be additional funds for this program, and the program may run all the way through December 22nd. But again, that's going to be dependent on that when that HR 1 gets passed and what the final piece looks like. But we are monitoring it, and we'll make adjustments accordingly. These are our ERAP point of contacts. The first email address you see there is the address that we have provided for our counties that are doing the ERAP program. So that's a direct email where they can ask questions, address issues, get information back from us. We send out our communications to the counties in bulk through that email address. Desiree Miller is my supervisor. She is monitoring that email address and she's providing a lot of interaction and feedback to the counties directly. Then there's myself, the division director, Adam Riggs, and my email address. So if you have any questions about the ERAP program, you feel free to direct those questions to me or Designate Miller or both. Kathy Bjerg is our bureau director, and I provided her contact information as well. So I'm looking forward to the host of questions you have. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share some of this information.
Thank you, Adam. That's great. And I see that in the chat, I'm sorry, in the Q&A box, question and answer box, people have been putting in their questions, and both Mary and Shelley have been busily responding to a bunch of those questions. Thank you. I think that's been very helpful. If you open up the question and answer box and you don't see your question, I would just guide you to the fact that there's a little tab at the top about answered versus open. So your question may have been answered already. If you don't see it there, click on that tab at the top. I want to also just start off with a bit of an announcement for the Housing Alliance. The Housing Alliance is going to be convening those agencies that are administering either federal or the state allocation. I should correct, that's the allocation through DHS, not that they're state funds. Adam has advised me that we don't want to get people confused. There's not state funds, but they're convening the agencies that are going to be administering these programs in a peer exchange to share information, ideas, and practices. So if you're an agency that will be administering the program that wants to participate in that peer exchange, please contact Phyllis at housingalliancepa.org. That's her email address. Phyllis Chamberlain, just email her if you're an agency that wants to participate in that peer exchange. There was a question about who's receiving the money directly. I answered that in the Q&A box. There is 19 local governments that are receiving an allocation directly. That's 18 counties and the city of Pittsburgh. I was counting Philadelphia as a county here, although it's one and the same. And with that, I'm going to start going through some of the questions that haven't been answered yet. That first question is there any assistance for families experiencing homelessness? Shelley, I think you dealt with that a little bit. Do you want to talk about answering that question possibly?
Yes, there are funds within York County that can help homeless families as they start up with security deposit and first month's rent. So initially with these monies, although they allow for it, we will not be doing that. We're going to hope to prevent a whole lot of homelessness first, to kind of back up and keep families from needing to go into shelters or find other places during this time. But there are funds within York County that can do that. And so that could change partway through the year as we go through the program. So that's the fluidity that will allow for. But to start out with, no, we're using the monies for homeless prevention, not for startup.
Thanks. Did you want to add anything to that, Adam? You're on mute there.
No, I did not want to add anything to that. Thank you.
Okay. The next question I'm going to take, Allie, and if you could take the one after that, because this question was I'd like to combine together with some other ones I saw later in the question list. This question is asking, what should organizations ask their housing authority or community action agency regarding program plans to serve the ERAP program? I saw also later down in the list somewhat of a related question, I think, which is a question about whether or not the funds can be used for tenants that are Section 8 voucher holders or in public housing. And Mary, would you mind answering that question? Sort of a combined two-part.
Sure. So I'll address the Section 8 part first, so according to the FAQ that was just put out by the U.S. Treasury, yes, we can provide assistance to individuals who are in public housing and who are receiving subsidies. So, and we will honor that. We're following the guidance pretty closely. So we will be honoring that. But most of the time when it comes to our voucher holders, they are updating us on whenever anything does change. So in general, they're already having some adjustments made. So we pretty much know about when their income is being affected by anything. However, yes, they are eligible and they can apply. With what to ask, I think in anything, we are open to any question that you may have and suggestion, at least in our world here. So I would say if you are a resident, we have a phone number and an email that are located on our website. People are welcome to call or reach out and ask any particular question if they're eligible. They're always welcome to just look through and see if there is any question, but in general, we have open lines of communication. So there are 2 staff members that are dedicated to our phone lines to answer questions, and again, a dedicated email, so people are welcome to ask whatever specific question they may have. We do have community partners that have been pretty actively involved, and we're involved in a number of those groups that sort of bring together all of our nonprofit partners and our housing partners. We've been very clear with them about what we're doing. I've shared the plan with a few of them as well. And so I think just keeping those open lines of communication. But I would say at least on our end, we do have dedicated numbers and individuals that can be contacted with questions.
Sally, anything you want to add?
No, that about sums it up. I think Mary did a great job with that. The only additional thing would be that we're not quite ready there yet, as we anticipate our rollout within the next 2 weeks. And then we'll have those phone lines available and a lot of resources. We're hoping also to put an FAQ on our website specifically for how York County is doing it in case there are additional questions. But again, that would just be available on our website at communityprogresscouncil.org. Yeah.
I think we may have lost Allie. Allie, are you there? I think we lost her. Okay. Question about the deadline for funds to be encumbered is December 31st, 2021, but when is the final date funds can be paid out? Adam, could you answer that question?
I could take that question back, but I mean, we're anticipating that, come the end of September, we're going to be looking at where the counties stand with their obligated and unobligated expenditures. I think as long as the payment going out is within the program year designated or covering an expense for the program year designated, we should be fine. I know the program needs to be completely closed out by March 22nd or March 30th, 2022 on our end.
Okay. Is there a place that, this is asked for direct service workers, but I think it may be just for general information as well, that somebody can turn to find out how each county is allocating their funds? This questioner is in Dauphin County and wanted to know specifically about families that would be eligible in that county for how and where they can apply. They don't see Dauphin County online via Compass at this point. Adam, is there anything that you might be putting out that has that information for each county?
So the information that we're going to be putting out that should be on our DHS website for ERAP in the next day or so does list the county contacts for every county, and it does indicate which counties are participating in Compass. Dauphin County is not participating in Compass applications, and they have provided us with the information on where to go. So that should be on our ERAP, DHS ERAP website here in the next day or so.
Okay. The next question is, if taking an application over the phone, can an agency representative taking the call accept a verbal attestation, and does it need to be a recorded call? Adam, do you want to answer that?
In our INR, we asked for written attestations. We did not accommodate or make any accommodations for verbal or phone attestations, but it is, you know, maybe that's a question or approach we can take back and see if I can get some legal guidance on that.
Okay. A specific question about Montgomery County and who's administering in that county. Are you able to answer that at this point, or just tell them to look at the list when it goes up that you described, Adam?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. They were asking who is administering in Montgomery County. Do you have that information, or should we just direct them to the list when it goes up?
If you give me a few moments, I can look it up. I don't have it at my fingertips, but yeah, it'll be out on the site soon.
All right, let's just move on to try and get through these questions, and if we have a chance, we'll come back. Would it be the DHS ERAP website that you've mentioned? There's not enough detail of that question, I'm sorry to say for sure, unless you know what that question meant. A question came up, I think, several times about homeowners and assistance with utilities. I say that there is no money for homeowners in this program. From everything we've seen, there are other programs through the LIHEAP program with assistance that DHS provides on a regular basis. Do you want to add anything to that, Adam? If you're
And I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with you on the questions and I'm getting lost.
Sure. That's okay. I was just asking if you wanted to add anything further about the fact that homeowners are not eligible for assistance with utilities with these funds, and I suggested that there are funds available for homeowners to get assistance with utilities through LIHEAP, and I asked, did you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yes, there is assistance through LIHEAP, I agree, but there is also, just through the regular homeless assistance program, they offer rental assistance and utility assistance as well. So, you know, there are other avenues to help those families resolve that. And I did want to mention that the, going back one question for the DHS ERAP site. So if you go to the DHS homepage, there's a coronavirus resource link. You click that and then you go down under resources and you should be able to find our ERAP page.
Okay, thanks. Mary, could you answer the question about whether or not you will be allowing direct assistance to tenants if landlords will not participate?
So according to the federal guidance, we must. Our plan of attack with that is to specifically exhaust all options to get in touch with that landlord and to discuss with them accepting the program. I think from our conversations with a number of landlords, they are much more open to accepting this money since it is full payment and even arrears. So I don't think we're going to have as many issues as with the previous program. However, we would exhaust all options because the end goal of the program is to keep individuals housed. So we would really like to see that if we do have to provide money to a tenant, that their landlord, the lease is still good, the landlord is still, they're paying the rent. And so there is some issues with that, but yes, we are allowed to provide to them, but that is only and only if we have exhausted the timeline that has been directed through the federal government, and we've exhausted every option to get in touch with the landlord. So as long as they understand they're receiving full payment, even arrears, and the lease is still good, I think most landlords would be willing to accommodate, but we're going to try to exhaust all options so that the money goes directly to that landlord.
Okay, thank you. Shelley, would you mind answering the next question? Does the landlord have to certify that they will not evict the client for any period of time after receiving the ERAP funds?
Yeah, only for those months in which they're assisted. So if they're paid forward for 3 months, then the expectation is that through those 3 months, they will not be evicted. Now, in the RRP program, they had to agree to an additional 60 days beyond that. That's not a part of this funding at all. So in any month that they're getting rent from us for that tenant, then absolutely they would not be in a position where they could evict without returning those monies for sure. So that's the only obligation they have, is through the assistance period itself, not anything beyond that.
Thank you. Adam, could you please review again briefly the reporting requirements, specifically the disaggregated data?
Certainly. So essentially, we're looking for the disaggregated data based on if you provided rental assistance, when you submit the report, you would identify that that payment was belonged to a household within a certain income bracket. Were they under the 30% AMI? Is it a household that's between 30 to 50% AMI, or is it a household that's between 50 and 80% AMI? And in addition to that, we would be capturing, whether the household, what gender, race, or ethnicity the household identified with at the time of authorization. So essentially, we're just saying how many rental assistance payments went to this income bracket, how many went to this income bracket, how many utility payments went to this income bracket. So that's what the disaggregated data is. And when we develop the reporting, and on our application, there's a piece where we provide a place for the agency to record that information on the application. So once they make the determination of approved, they can go down and further indicate on their, which of these brackets they were in and what have you. So it'll be easier for them to report out.
Thanks, Adam. Mary and Shelley, this question was directed at, I think, the two of you about any advice you might have for landlords who would be pursuing evictions once the moratorium is lifted. Would you offer advice as to whether or not you think it'd be easier for the landlord to seek arrears through the ERAP and not place that individual on the street?
Okay, so yeah, so I think in every case is going to be different. So if they are seeking to evict someone because of failure to pay rent, then I think this program would definitely help out a landlord. If there are other reasons beyond what are financial, that's another case. But I do think we can have those conversations. It is we're going to do some outreach on our end with some landlords and just make them aware of it. But yes, it would be much more, if they were always been a good tenant and now they're just behind and the landlord is willing to work with us, we do have staff that have experience with mediation. And so ideally we would love to get ahead of that. So we're willing to go out and talk to different landlord groups. I think we're going to be doing a webinar in the upcoming months. And it's just, again, that education component. But it would be a much easier route if it's just a financially based decision to evict. If it's not, that's a whole other level.
Thanks. So, Adam, could you take maybe the next couple questions? According to the program guidelines, if an applicant owes rent or utility arrears on a previous unit that they have to pay in order to secure housing, is it permissible to pay arrears for a previous unit?
When it comes to arrears on a previous unit, I think we would ask that that be covered under what we classify as other expenses related to housing. That seems to be a rather broad area. It accommodates for reallocation or relocation of a applicant. And I think that would probably be the best area to prove that, rather than recorded as rental assistance or utility assistance. So that would be captured as an assistance for other expenses related to housing.
Another question related to utilities: if an applicant does not have utility service in their name, for example, if the applicant could not get the utilities put in their name, therefore the utilities were started in another person's name who's not living in the household, is that still eligible?
I believe that's not going to qualify because the requirement is that the individual who has the residential dwelling has an obligation to pay the utility.
If paying a 3-month future rent, should it be paid in one lump sum to the landlord or 3 individual monthly payments?
We are leaving that up to the county's discretion on how they want to do that, because, you know, you may be paying just 1 or 2 months. You may not need that 3rd month for another 2 months. It's just going to depend on how the county how the applicant is approaching that situation. So it's really left up to the county.
Maybe a question that Shelley, you could tackle, but Mary might want to chime in. Are households going to be referred to specific agencies through 211 as well?
For other kinds of rental assistance?
It's unclear whether they're really saying, is 211 going to be referring to you for this funding, or whether they're asking what you'd be trying to coordinate and provide assistance in other areas and other programs through 211. So maybe if you could answer it both ways.
Well, 211 will absolutely be referring to us. The Compass website will be referring to us as well. But then if folks want to come on site and use one of our computers to apply, they can, but we'll also have a list of our partnering agencies where they could go and get assistance to and become a collaborator, so that they could get assistance from other agencies and actually filling out and completing the application, uploading documents. So that doesn't have to be done at our office or through us. That could be through any of our partnering agencies. But yeah, 211 will refer and their application will be on our website, and they'll be referring to us.
I suspect it may vary somewhat from county to county. So that's at least what's happening in York. I'm going to go on to the next question at this point. For assistance last year, there was a limit to how much rental assistance could be provided per month, and the landlord had to certify that any remaining rent for that month would be forgiven. This time around, is the landlord required to forgive the remaining rent for the counties who are capping payments? Shelley, you're shaking your head.
No.
So the answer is no.
No, we want people to have housing stability, and so whatever those costs are, we're going to seek to pay them and to make it right for the landlord and allow that tenant to continue to stay there and reside there.
Adam, maybe you could take the next one. Do distribution agencies that are using Compass front end have to separately keep and report all of the stats, or will Compass take all this responsibility?
As we continue to develop Compass, we are going to give the counties the opportunity to record those stats, but initially up front, they're going to be recording them on their own.
Okay. Shelley, I guess this was directed at you because of something you said in your presentation or question or answers. The person asked, says they understand that 12 months of back rent can be paid, or 12 months of rent moving forward in 3-month chunks, but can a combo be considered? Is there a total number of months that can be paid to a tenant? For example, 6 months of back and 6 months moving forward.
Yes. That's the short answer. It can be any number of months back and forward in 3-month chunks up to 12 months. There's some provision for 3 months past that, but it's got to be pretty well documented that the need continues past the 12-month period. One of the questions that came up that's probably worth highlighting too is, if in fact they received RRP last year, can they also receive this money for this year or some combination of months? And the answer is absolutely yes, not for the same months. So if they were assisted from March through August, which is 6 months of RRP, from September forward for a period of up to 12 months, they could receive this money as well. So this is not going to eliminate them from getting assistance because if they got the RRP before, and that's important for people to know.
So I I think this may be almost the same sort of question. If a household receives 6 months of RRP, are they able to receive an additional 12 months rent through ERAP as long as the months are not duplicated, or are they limited to 12 months total?
Nope. As long as they're not duplicated, we can't pay for August out of RRP and August out of ERAP. But absolutely, they could have gotten 6 months out of RRP and get an additional 12 months out of ERAP.
And again, a similar sort of question, I think you just answered it, Shelley, about it being a one-time help of 12 months. So I think we've answered that now a couple times over. Another question that came in that I skipped over, this would be advice that maybe Shelley or Mary, you might want to offer, or others. If a landlord wants to evict because the tenant has been breaking other rules, noise, damage, etc., any words of advice on trying to convince them to reconsider? Tough question.
So I will say there are a number of landlord-tenant mediation programs throughout the state. So you can rely on one of those. In our case here, we do have a program for tenants. So it might be a conversation between the landlord and a tenant. And if the tenant is willing to put in the effort and to take our program about how to be a much more responsible tenant, there are some options, but you can only offer. We can't force anybody into anything. So at least we're sort of formatting our own mediation program right now, but there are some, I know there's a handful throughout the state of landlord mediation programs, and that might be something to look for if your county has that.
That was the last question, and I would add to that the Housing Alliance on their website has quite a bit about the mediation resources that are out there. I'd encourage people to look at that on the Housing Alliance website. There were a couple little comments that were thrown into the chat. We said put your questions into the Q&A box instead, but somebody pointed out that at least their 211 will be referring people to DHS and Compass. Somebody else added a comment about they run an emergency housing unit in Allegheny County for LGBTQIA, individuals of color experiencing homelessness. Would it be viable for their clients to immediately apply for rental assistance funds once they place them in stable housing, with the thought process of keeping them from returning to homelessness? I guess that's really a question of what's happening in Allegheny County, and we don't have a presenter on here from Allegheny County that could speak to their current status. Any advice, though, that any of the presenters want to offer to that? If not, Adam, anything you want to add to your comments? We don't have any more questions. Oops, I said that, and as soon as I said it, a couple others popped up. Sorry. If you pay out 6 months rent on ERAP and they feel confident that they can handle it going forward, but then 3 months later in June, they're behind again, can they submit another request for ERAP coverage for additional arrears?
Yes, as long as it's during the 12-month period before December 31st, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another question, will utilities kept in the landlord name be eligible? There is an agreement in place that the tenant will reimburse the landlord for monthly utilities, but the tenant is currently in arrears. Can the landlord be paid for utilities through ERAP?
We'll do that. It's considered part of the rent. If it's part of the rental agreement, part of the lease agreement, that those utilities are paid, then yes, it's considered rent basically.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to probably at this point, we're bumping up against the end of our scheduled time, and we have gotten through all the questions. I do appreciate and want to really thank our panel and thank everyone for attending the session of the Pandemic Response Series. If you attended today's session, you might be interested to know that the next session will examine Child care barriers to workforce and economic development in the pandemic. That session will be held on March 25th at 10 a.m. I also want to thank several others that have contributed to planning today's session. The Housing Alliance, in particular, Stacy Sotung. I also want to express appreciation to George Klaus and Justin Eby, co-chairs of the Assembly's Housing and Community Development Committee, along with Ali Schatz. We appreciate the opportunity to work with the Housing Alliance in supporting today's session, along with our other sponsors. The Housing Alliance will be connecting you immediately after this session is over to a survey for everyone attending today's session. Separately, I'd like to again remind you, as George pointed out at the beginning, those of you in the South Central Assembly 8-county region will receive an email with a separate evaluation survey. We would greatly appreciate you completing this very brief questionnaire, less than a handful of questions. That evaluation also seeks your suggestions for future sessions of the Pandemic Response Series and provides opportunities for you to become more involved with the South Central Assembly. As George Klaus described in the introduction of today's session, the Assembly is planning to cover a diverse set of topics through the Pandemic Response Series this year. We look forward to your attendance at those sessions. If you want more information about the Assembly or to hear previous recordings of the Pandemic Response Series, please visit our website at southcentralassembly.org. I want to thank you again for participating and have a great day. Bye, everybody.